I invite you now to hear the words of the 65th Psalm. Praise is due to you, O God, in Zion, and to you shall vows be performed, O you who answer prayer. To you all flesh shall come. When deeds of iniquity overwhelm us, you forgive our transgressions. Happy are those whom you choose and bring near to live in your courts. We shall be satisfied with the goodness of your house, your holy temple. By awesome deeds you answer us with deliverance, O God of our salvation. You are the hope of all the ends of the earth and of the farthest seas. By your strength you establish the mountains. You are girded with might. You silence the roaring of the seas, the roaring of their waves, the tumult of the peoples. Those who live at earth's farthest bounds are awed by your signs. You make the gateways of the morning and the evening shout for joy. You visit the earth and water it. You greatly enrich it. The river of God is full of water. You provide the people with grain, for so you have prepared it. You water its furrows abundantly, settling its ridges, softening it with showers, and blessing its growth. You crown the year with your bounty. Your wagon tracks overflow with richness. The pastures of the wilderness overflow. The hills gird themselves with joy. The meadows clothe themselves with flocks. The valleys deck themselves with grain. They shout and sing together for joy. Amen. Well, on our way out to Virginia Beach this summer, we had to stop part of the way, and since part of the way from Kentucky to Virginia Beach is the mountains, I made a point to find a hotel somewhere there in the Blue Ridge Mountains so that the kids could see some of the Blue Ridge. We drove a little bit on the parkway and just kind of explored that area just a tad, more or less on our way out. And so we were in Roanoke, and I woke up early one morning, and I was the only one that was going to probably wake up for the next couple of hours. And so I headed out early and decided to go explore just a little bit. And now we were in the city, but it wasn't that far from a spot where I could see a little creek. And so I looked on the map to see, well, where is this creek and where can I get to it? And I found a little spot, and then I pulled into a little lot and just by an overpass found this gorgeous little creek and decided, well, why don't I just sit here for a little while, see the day wake up this morning. And so, you see, I just kind of found my way around the overpass. There's poison ivy all over the place, so I kind of picked my way around the poison ivy and went and found a kind of a place where I could just sit for a little bit and just enjoy the beauty that God had created in that place. It was amazing to just sit and to read, obviously take a few pictures, to pray, and just kind of pause in the middle of a busy trip to just say thanks for the beauty that God had provided in that moment. Now, it was kind of loud there with the riffles by the creek bed, but I thought I heard somebody yelling, a voice. And I couldn't hear what they were saying, couldn't make it out, but it was in the direction of my car, so I thought, well, maybe I should go check that out. And I made my way back up and picked around the poison ivy again and came up to the road and came around to where my car was, and there was a man standing by my car, red face, whiskers, one of the angriest people that I've seen in a long time, and he was angry at me. Now, it took me a little while to figure out what he was angry about, but eventually, pretty quickly, I pieced together that he assumed that I went down to this creek bed early in the morning so that I could do drugs. He was convinced that that's why I was there under this overpass. I explained to him I wasn't. I explained to him it didn't look like I was doing any drugs. I had a book. I was reading a book. There were no drugs in my hand. But he was convinced. He said, well, there's all kinds of poison ivy down there. I said, well, I didn't walk through the poison ivy. I walked around the poison ivy, which didn't help the conversation very much. But in this conversation, he just got angrier and angrier and angrier because he was convinced that I was some kind of drug pothead or something, I don't know, underneath this overpass early in the morning. That's the only thing that I could be doing underneath there. Now, I knew this conversation was not going anywhere fast, so I decided I'll just go ahead and leave. So I got in my car and I drove off. And it was interesting. I went through this range of emotions It was kind of this, startling moment, right? Especially jarring from the beauty of the creek that I was sitting next to. And in these motions, I went through this cycle, right? First of all, I was scared. I mean, what could this guy do? I mean, could he come after me? What's he? I mean, you hear all these stereotypes of guys up in the mountains and grizzled whatever. And it's like, oh, what's going to happen? Then I got angry. I could tell something that wasn't quite right. I pulled over, and the reason he was right next to my car, he had taken the cap off and was letting the air out of my tire while I was down by this creek bed. He was convinced that this was a bad guy that he had to fix. And so I got pretty angry in that moment. Eventually, I just had to laugh. After I got past some of the emotion of that, I realized, this guy's just kind of, you remember the old cartoon character Yosemite Sam that went shooting the guns and, razza-frazzing, da-da-da. He kind of reminded me of that guy, right? And so you just kind of had to laugh him off. And then I got sad. I got sad that this man lives like this. Apparently he felt the need to defend the parking lot there, and just a few feet away every single day was this beauty. But he said something to me that stuck with me ever since. He said, no one would go down there just to read a book. And he just didn't see God's beauty inches from his face. Well, the passage I read this morning comes from the Psalms. And we're not exactly sure when it was written, but it came kind of in the context, more than likely, of a temple worship. And so during this temple worship, they would read something or sing something kind of like this. And it's important because the worship that the kind of the priests of God, the priests of Yahweh, the people of God, the way they worshipped stood in stark contrast to the priests of the culture around them. Perhaps you've heard of the god Baal. A lot of the culture around them worshipped this god Baal. And Baal was kind of a god connected to nature, but not in a good way. His connection to nature was more or less that the priests of Baal, the worship of Baal, was an attempt to control nature, was to control the natural world they saw around them. And so they would pray to make sure it rained, and pray to make sure that the crops grew, and pray to make sure that the people would have children, right? So there was this God of control, this God of virility, this God of strength, of overpowering, this God of kind of conquest. That was the practice of Baal worship. That was the priests of Baal and the way that they worshipped. I kind of saw this guy kind of like a priest of Baal, right? I mean, in his mind, nature's only there to be conquered. Nature's only there to be either ignored or used as a resource. Now, this guy isn't too high of a priest. He's probably like a sub-priest, third class or something like that, right? But we have plenty of high priests of Baal in our world, do we not? Plenty in our own world, even in our own country, who believe that the natural world is simply something to be controlled, something to be conquered. At worst, at best, ignored. How many of us participate in the worship of Baal? In the way that we participate in the destruction of some of these resources. I think it is something that we see often again. A lot of corporations, a lot of politicians, a lot of us, but a lot of us participate in this broken worship of Baal, of power, of conquest, of taking the earth's resources and hoarding or using them, just like Joanna shared this morning. Maybe it's not a coincidence that on this weekend, many of us will drive to the bank tomorrow and find it closed as we celebrate the legacy of Christopher Columbus. It is an ambiguous legacy, for indeed here was one who came with eyes of conquest, eyes to take what he finds, to use whatever resources, and to use it for his kingdom. He and we, like him, are so often priests of Baal. But here's the difference. Here is a word that stands against, that stood against that priesthood, that stood against that Baal worship, that stood against that conquest and that strength and that overpowering idea. Instead, what we read in the Psalms is a very different understanding of the worship of Yahweh. They would come and sing this psalm as they came into the courts, as they came into the temple to worship. They would sing these words, and look again at the words. Look how different it is than the priesthood of Baal. Look how different it is than the worship of control and conquest. Look, it begins with these ideas, basically a sense of gratitude. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you to God for the blessings that you have given us. Thank you for the amazing things that you have done on our behalf. Thank you for your forgiveness. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your salvation. To live, to practice gratitude is very different than the culture they saw around them and the culture we see around us. What would it look like if we practiced gratitude like the psalmist did, to thank God instead of trying to control everything we see around us, instead of just say, God, you're in control. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Then we look down a couple more verses there in the fourth chapter or fourth verse. We see this word, we will be satisfied with the goodness of your house. Now, think about that word for a minute, satisfaction. That's something that we don't like to do. I mean, right? We're always wanting to do a little bit more, a little bit better, a little bit. The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. We don't want to be satisfied, right? Satisfaction is failure in our minds, at least according to the culture of Baal. We want to do more. We want to be more. We want to strive more. But what would it mean if we began to practice satisfaction? Satisfaction and gratitude go hand in hand because we start to become thankful for what God has given us. No longer a resource for us to use, but now a gift for us to receive. May we be satisfied with the natural world, with the world around us, with the people in our midst. What's the old song? Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. What if we were satisfied with the blessings that we had in our life instead of wishing life were just on the other side of the fence? And then there in verse 5, by awesome deeds you answer us with deliverance, O God of salvation. We love that word awesome. We talked about this in the two-way on Wednesday night, and they were kind of poking fun at the word a little bit because of how often do we use that word awesome? And how often do we overuse that word awesome, right? I mean, you get a high score on your video game, oh, that's awesome. Or, you make the red light, oh, well, that's awesome, right? It's okay, that's good. Thank God for little gifts, but that's not really what that word awe is about. Awe is about seeing the splendor and beauty of God's creation, of opening our eyes, even if it's just a few inches from our face, and saying, yes, 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 I am awe-inspired by the images of beauty that I see. Whether it's the blue sky of a finally autumn day here in Kansas, or the rain as it waters the earth. We are filled with awe. Are our intrepid explorers back? Are our kids back? I tell you what, let's have the kids come in. Because I think if anybody's going to teach us about awe, it's going to be these guys. I want to see what they found on their nature exploration. Oh, here they come. They're running in. Running. Okay. Oh, my goodness. Look at that basket. Oh, that basket's full. It's over full. You got tons of stuff.
We got a dead worm.
A dead worm? Oh, my goodness.
We did.
Okay. All right, let's see if I can show this. What is this thing?
It's a stone.
It's a stone. Well, that's cool. That's a cool little stone. Can everybody see that there?
It's a stone. It has birds.
And it has birds on it, right? So it's from nature, and it has nature on it. And it has words. You know, it's kind of a script. It says, "For with God all things are possible." That's pretty cool. All right, now what about this? What's this stuff here?
That's fuzzy stuff.
Fuzzy stuff. It looks kind of like cotton. We just planted a bunch of stuff here in the chancel. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Look how little all those cool little things are. See, hold it up to the light. See how it kind of shines up in the light? Isn't that cool? Can you see that? Okay. All right, now what about this? A stick? Oh, there's a couple of these.
And a stick.
2 sticks.
Elizabeth has a presentation came from a tree.
Oh, you have a stick too? It came from a tree? Oh, look. See how these sticks are different? One of them's super smooth here, and the other has little bumps on it. Oh, there's a big stick. All right. We can start a fire here before too long. We got all kinds of good sticks.
Another stick.
Oh, and another stick. You guys got a bunch of sticks.
And another stick.
And another stick. All right. Here, let's put the sticks here. Oh, what's this? What's this?
This is the exact same flower on my shirt.
A flower. Oh, that's right. Look. God's nature this morning decided to match Evie. Isn't that cool?
And on your head.
And a tomato.
We got
Where do you find a tomato?
There's multiple tomatoes.
Tomato? I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if that's a tomato. That's a
This
little
is
thing.
the world's largest.
That is a cool leaf, isn't it?
And it also has caterpillar biting through it.
Oh, does it?
Yes. See
Awesome.
the little holes.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, wait. What's this? What's that? Show us,
That's
Emma.
a giant rock.
What's that?
It's the world's
A little tomato. Oh, that's cool. Thank you. Oh, you can show it.
road.
Oh, you found that in the road too? Look, you can't see these very well out there.
some
But what are these little things?
We also got road.
You see them?
Gaga ball pieces.
Gaga ball pieces.
stuff.
Actually, they're
They're
little bitty rocks. And what's this thing?
That's a world's giant.
The world giantest rock.
What is this?
Oh, and it's got a little fuzzy on there too.
What's this?
What's that? Oh, I
There's
don't know.
blood
There's
on
some
it.
grass. Oh, look at that. Does that look like blood in there?
Yes.
Look, that is part of I think this is part of the same grass as this. So that grass, I got some of your little tomato, whatever that is on it. So look, this grass, see, it's up here like this, but inside of there, see how it's red on the inside? That's inside of those really tall grasses. Isn't that cool?
We also got this big.
And that grass too? That's right. See all those things that are falling off? Those are seeds. So next year, it's not going to happen inside, but next year outside, there will be more and more grass just like that.
Did you not see something?
Oh, what did I miss?
You missed the dandelion.
Oh, the dandelion.
Oh,
Oh, yes. That's a beautiful flower. Can you guys see the dandelion out there?
There's also tomatoes.
And the tomatoes. That's right. Let's give our kids a big round of applause for all of this. Okay, now some of you guys are going to help me, right? While you're up here? Okay, do we have the mic back there? Joe, do you still have the mic? Our kids are going to keep teaching us about awe. We're going to have them read a section of the psalm that we heard this morning. And as they do that, I'm going to put up on the screen a few pictures. Hello. A few images of beauty. What's that? Oh, that's okay. Some of us are readers and some of us are not. If you're one of the readers, you can stay up here. If not, you guys can go sit down. Thank you guys for helping. Uh-oh, that's right. Okay, so you guys know your order?
Yep. Yes, Elizabeth.
Okay, and then pass it to the next person when you're done, okay?
So let's go in order.
You can start there, okay? So you'll hear them, and up on the screen, I'll put the images of some of the things that I saw that inspired me in connection to this psalm. Okay, you're up.
Psalm 65. By awesome deeds you answer us with deliverance, O God of our salvation. You are the hope of all the ends of the earth and of the farthest seas. By your strength you established the mountains. You are girded with might.
You silenced the roaring seas of roarings of their waves, the tumult of peoples. Those who live at earth's farthest bounds are owed by your sides. You make the gateways of our mornings and evenings shout for joy.
You visit the earth and water it. You greatly enrich it. The river of gods is full of water. You provide the people with grain, for so you have prepared it. Your water is for us abundantly, setting its ridges, softening it with showers, and blessing its growth.
You crown the year with your bounty. Your wagon tracks overflow with richness. The pastures of the wilderness overflow. The hills gird themselves with joy. The meadows clothe themselves with flocks. The valley deck themselves with grain. They shout and sing together of joy.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wonderful job. Wonderful teachers today, teaching us what awe is all about. When was the last time you got that excited about grass? May they be our teachers today. Annie Dillard would have been impressed. Annie is a writer that writes about nature and writes about creation, and she talks about the intricacy of things like this. She talks about the scales on the edge of a goldfish, or she talks about the needles of the longleaf pine. She talks about the head of a caterpillar. And in all of these different circumstances, in all of these different examples, what she says is that there's this incredible intricacy to creation. And she writes that naturalists will tell us that intricacy is not necessary. It's not required. It's not necessarily even needed for growth or for any of nature to look like this and to have this exquisiteness and to have this kind of amazing beauty. And so her suggestion is, well, simply what that means is that the Creator loves pizzazz. She says the Creator loves to enjoy the beauty of creation as much as we do. And so that intricate, exquisite, beautiful, awe-inspiring beauty surrounds us. Well, there's a part of the story that I left out today about our friend in the parking lot. The book that I was reading as I was sitting by the creek is by Annie Dillard. She writes about intricacy and about her experiences at a little place called Tinker Creek. The book is called Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. And it's just a little creek not far from where she was living. It's a 40-year-old book now. But in the 70s, she wrote this book about all these experiences and all these things that she had and the intricacy and the beauty and the pizzazz of the creation around her. Well, I realized as I was falling asleep there in Roanoke that Tinker Creek was a mile away from where we were sleeping. And so when I woke up the next morning, I went on a pilgrimage to Tinker Creek. And after I was, rather rudely kicked out of my spot on Tinker Creek, I looked on the map again and found another spot just up the road where I could sit with a little more peace by Tinker Creek once more and just allow myself to be enveloped in awe at the beauty that I saw around me. To reject the priesthood of Baal and to engage in the practice of gratitude, the practice of satisfaction, and the practice of awe. And so I read these words by Dillard and found myself transfixed and transfigured by them. It was sunny one evening last summer at Tinker Creek. The sun was low in the sky upstream. I was sitting on the sycamore log bridge with the sunset at my back, watching the shiners the size of minnows who were feeding over the muddy sand in skittery schools. Again and again, one fish, then another, turned for a split second across the current and flashed. The sun shot out from its silver side. I couldn't watch for it. It was always just happening somewhere else, and I drew my vision just as it disappeared. Flash like a sudden dazzle of the thinnest blade, a sparking over a dun and olive ground at chance intervals from every direction. Then I noticed white specks, some sort of pale petals, small, floating from under my feet on the creek's surface, very slow and steady. So I blurred my eyes and gazed toward the brim of my hat and saw a new world. I saw the pale white circles roll up like the world's turning mute and perfect. I saw the linear flashes gleaming silver like stars being born at random down a rolling scroll of time. Something broke and something opened. I filled up like new wineskin. I breathed an air like light. I saw a light like water. I was the lip of a fountain the creek filled forever. I was ether, the leaf in the zephyr. I was flesh flake, feather, bone. When I see this way, I see truly. As Thoreau says, I return to my senses. I am the man who watches the baseball game in silence in an empty stadium. I see the game purely. I'm abstracted and dazed. When it's all over and the white-suited players lope off the green field to their shadowed dugouts, I leap to my feet and I cheer and cheer. May we cheer at the beauty we see around us. May we be inspired with awe. May we live lives of satisfaction, of gratitude, and may we pause in the midst of our busyness and our chaos and our struggle and simply look up and say thanks. Let us pray. God of the sea and God of the sky, God of the rocks and the tomatoes and the grass, God of beauty beyond our imagining and just outside of our grasp. Help us. Remind us what it means to be thankful in your midst. In your name we pray. Amen.